Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Let's Ruck. I'm Spencer Harris, I'm your host. This week, we're going to be talking about the very exciting and upcoming Six Nations tournament. This is a championship between six international teams of England, France, Italy, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. England and Wales have the most Six Nations championships. Well, now it's called Six Nations, but they have the most championships out of all of them with 39 wins. England has the most outright wins with 29. Outright meaning they've won it by themselves. They're not sharing the title with anybody. That is impressive. And when I say that it's now referred to as Six Nations, it was the Home Nations Championship between England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Those four teams were the original tournament. They then added France and became the Five Nations. Then, in 2000, they added Italy and became the Six Nations, and it has been that way ever since. Now, the funny thing about Six Nations is they will give the championship, and if you win every game, you are also given the Grand Slam. And Triple Crown. But the funny thing about it is they also award the last place team, not a trophy because there's not a real trophy, but it's a sentimental trophy, and it is the wooden spoon. That is the award for the last place finish. And now every team has been awarded the wooden spoon at one point in time or another. Italy, unfortunately, have had the roughest start out of the programs, being the youngest of the group, and they have had 15 wooden spoons. England had several back when it was the Home Nations and Five Nations. And Ireland as well had several. Every team has had double digits wooden spoons. And now you may be thinking this tournament is all about winning the Six Nations or avoiding the wooden spoon. But there's more to it. Each team has, in fact, a rivalry cup. And now this is really cool because it is exactly like what we deal with in America for college football. When it comes to rivalry week, you compete for a trophy, such as where I've come from, I played rugby at the University of Mississippi. Our big rival was Mississippi State. Our football team plays for the Egg Cup. We're technically involved in the Magnolia Bowl against them. We haven't had a trophy in rugby in a while, but our football team still has the Egg Bowl, and in fact, just as a little slight hand to all my Mississippi State friends, Ole Miss is the current holder of the Egg Bowl, and I'm betting in 2021 it stays in Oxford. But now back to rugby and back to the rivalry trophies. There are six trophies involved. England has two that they compete with. They have a rivalry against England and Scotland called where they compete for the Calcutta Cup. This has been involved since 1879. England and Ireland also face off for the Millennium Trophy since 1988. Ireland and Scotland have this centenary quake. I'm not sure what that word is. I know I'm not saying it right, but that has been involved since 89. France and Italy want to make me look like an idiot because I'm going to butcher the former leader of Italy and a French volunteer with, please let me get it right, Giuseppe Garibaldi's trophy. This has been involved since 2007. Their rivalry, one of the youngest, but The big surprise, given that Italy has only been there since 2000, they are not the youngest rivalry trophy. France and Scotland face off in the Auld Alliance Trophy, and I apologize if I said that wrong. I am not the greatest at pronouncing things, but the Auld Alliance Trophy has been competed for since 2018. And then tying for the youngest rivalry trophy in the Six Nations is the Dottie Ware Cup between Wales and Scotland, also in 2018. Now, the Six Nations kicks off this Saturday, being the first round out of 5 rounds. The tournament will go from Saturday, February 6th until Saturday, March 20th. Round 1, I'm excited about. I know my rugby team is planning on watching the games. And these games kick off, being as I am in the East Coast of the United States, I'm going to refer to them in the Eastern time zone. The first game kicks off with Italy and France, Saturday morning at 9:15 Eastern time. I'm a big fan of College Game Day and Lee Corso's picks of the week. As long as the rest of them, I would love in the future when I have guests on for them to also be involved in picking upcoming games. So that is going to be a trend that we are going to have in Let's Ruck. So that's starting today. We're going with France beats Italy in the first game of the Six Nations. It'll be a tough game. France has had some ups and downs because they weren't exactly sure if they were going to be allowed to play for travel, to allow people to come and travel into it. It's still, a little iffy. We'll see how it goes. But games kick off Saturday, so that's a good sign. And then the second game of the tournament is England and Scotland at 11:45 Eastern Time. I'm not going to lie, England is my favorite to win the tournament. They are a tough and dominant rugby team. Scotland is tough, and they're a great starting round for England. But I do believe that England comes off and wins this. And I'm throwing this out there for no reason whatsoever, other than it's just a pure gut feeling. I think they win by 3 tries. And then Sunday, a game all by itself, and a game that I am very excited about, is Wales versus Ireland at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Now, I'm really excited about this because while I did say England is my favorite to win it, Ireland is a tough rugby team. They're very upset about last year. They were competing. If they had won the game by a few more scores, they would have won. But England took home the Six Nations trophy last year, and I can tell you, I guarantee that Ireland is a little angry about it. They're going to be looking for some revenge, so it is going to come down between England and Ireland again, and I think England takes it home. I could be wrong. I want you guys to let me know who you think is going to win Six Nations. I want to know who you think is going to win this weekend, why you think that, and why you disagree with me. Rugby's all about communication. Those who play the field know that you have to communicate, or else holes get made, players blow through, and tries get scored. And now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about when I say a try, that's the great thing about Let's Ruck, is I want this podcast to be about rugby for everybody. I want this to be entertaining and informative. So, we're going to break down rugby real quickly for those of you who are new to the game or never watched the game. This weekend is a great weekend to get involved in becoming a fan. So, this weekend is a 15s tournament. 15s is literally the number of players on the field at one time. Football has 11 guys on the side for both sides. Rugby, we have 15. There are 8 forwards and 7 backs. So, forwards are like your big players. Picture linemen and linebackers in football. Big, strong players. Your backs are usually your quicker, we like to refer to ourselves as the skill players. Forwards, I know you guys disagree with it, but catch me if you can. So, with that breaking down, the 15 games are 80 minutes long. They are a continuous clock for two 40-minute halves. And the exciting thing about rugby is that even though the halves are 40 minutes, unless the uh, uh, the offensive team kicks the ball out of bounds, the clock will keep going. So it can go for an additional 10 minutes. So you could have a 50-minute first half, but the clock will restart back at 40 minutes in the second half. So you could be playing for a lot longer than 80 minutes. A lot of people who have played it have, and a lot of people will tell you 80 minutes is a long time to be tackling, running full speed, catching the ball, and just having a blast. Like you have, if you haven't experienced rugby, reach out to local clubs. That they will love to have you. They will love to teach you about the game, whether you stick around and become a member of the team or you're just there for the day. Especially right now, a lot of teams are involved in non-contact events such as touch or flag rugby because of the pandemic that everyone had to deal with. Other teams are moving towards playing games again. My team is one of the latter. We have our first game of the season coming up in 2 weeks. I am so excited. I can't wait to get back on the field and actually be playing real rugby again. It's a blast. And I'm just telling you, if you have never experienced it, try. Give it a shot. Worst case, you have one day where you spend a couple hours getting some exercise. That's a pretty good worst case. Best case, you're like myself, you fall in love with the game, and you spend 4 years to the rest of your life being around it. So, this weekend, like I said, is a great time to start paying attention to it. With Six Nations, it is one of the most exciting rugby tournaments out there. And now, giving a little breakdown of who I am as a host, because this is our first episode. This episode is going to be a little odd, not really structured, because I'm trying to figure out how this is going and where I want to move forward with this in the future. But, like I said at the very beginning, I'm Spencer Harris. I've been playing rugby for the last 4 years. 3 of those years I was at the University of Mississippi Ole Miss Rebels. Hotty toddy, I miss you boys. Can't wait for alumni weekend. Get back on the field. It'll be good to be on the old boy side this time. Because I had way too many teammates that had graduated and left the school before I did that it wasn't great to line up against, because I knew how they played and they knew how I played. So running into some of them hurt. But I'm excited to move forward and get back out to Oxford, spend time with the boys. Miss that. But the new team that I'm a part of is a newly formed team. My team actually began during the coronavirus pandemic. We are the Alpharetta Exiles. I want to give a huge shout out to all my friends on the Alpharetta Exiles. I want to give a main shout out to the president of the club for getting this started and just kind of throwing me into the team without actually agreeing if I was playing or not. Just, you're an exile, and it was one of the best voluntold situations I've had in my life. So, Steve, big shout out to you. Thanks for that. Can't wait for February 13th. It'll be a good day. We get to finally put on those jerseys. Uh, so, like I said, I've played this for 4 years. What I want to do moving forward with this podcast is I want to get my fellow teammates, whether it was from Ole Miss or the Alpharetta Exiles, I want to get them in. I want to interview them and get their rugby stories, because everybody has a different rugby story. Everybody has a different reason for why they got into the game, how they got into it, and it's just fun and exciting. I want to be. I want to continue to get more people involved in this, more people interviewed, even outside of my teammates, because rugby players love to make the joke that rugby is a fraternity, because it is a international brotherhood. Once you start playing rugby, whether you're male or female, or you identify as whatever you prefer to identify as soon as you step on that field, you're one of us, and that's the great thing about rugby. As long as you want to step out there, you want to take hits, you want to get hits, and you come to the socials afterwards, you're a rugby player, and that's a great thing, because you'll meet people from all over the world who had done this. I've gone out before the pandemic started. I've gone out to random bars wearing rugby sweaters, and a guy from, I believe it was Germany, saw my jersey, came up and immediately started talking rugby with me, and it was awesome because I had never met this guy in my life. I probably never would have met him outside of the fact that I was just wearing a rugby jersey that day, and we had just gone to the bar to have some fun with my family and friends, and met this dude. It was great. I haven't seen him since because he's since gone back to Germany. But Mike, if by some sheer luck you find this podcast, cheers. Hope rugby's going great out in Germany. Um, but that's what's so exciting about this game is it's an immediate bond between players and fans, coaches, everything. When you run into a rugby player or a rugby fan, it's you're friends for life, and that's what's awesome about this. So that's what I want to show in this podcast. I want to have more people involved, more rugby stories shared, more personal life stories shared, because the more things that people get out there, the more information about the game, the more people who will be interested and want to try it or just become a fan. And with rugby growing as fast as it is in the United States, the more information we have out there and the more people who support this, the bigger and better rugby will grow here, and will eventually catch up to the other rugby countries who they've been kicking the crap out of the U.S. for a long time, except for before the 2016 Olympics. United States was back-to-back Olympic gold medalist. They didn't have rugby for a long time after that, but we were the last back-to-back. Fiji will look to try and do that in 7s versus 15s. And now, quick touch on that because people will not understand. Just as I said earlier, with 15s is literally the number of players in a 15s match. 7s is the number of players in a 7s match. 7 guys aside, 14-minute halves versus the 80-minute games that are involved in that. I love 7s because I am a back. And it's a speed game versus the push and grind of a 15s game, which is more of a forwards game. If you're new to rugby, I definitely recommend you check out both of them. And just like I said this weekend, Six Nations. Let me know who you have. Let me know why you think they're going to pull off what they got going off. Let me know what you want to hear about in future episodes of Let's Ruck. What you want to hear less of. Probably a little less of my rambling while I try and gather my thoughts. I'm going to work on that. This is the first episode, so it's a learning process. So thank you all for watching this episode. This is going to be one of the shorter ones because it's just me. We don't have rugby to talk about until this weekend. Next week, we will recap this weekend's games. And again, I will give my picks to who I think will move forward next week. If you guys like the podcast, let me know. Follow it. My socials are all Let's Ruck Podcast. We are on Instagram, Twitter. Our YouTube page is Let's Ruck. Our Facebook page is Let's Ruck. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Let's Ruck and roll away.